Hello everyone. In today's challenge, we will be creating different variations of switch, toggle switch. What is a toggle switch? It's a UI element that allows user to switch between two mutually exclusive states, such as on and off or enable or disable. Switches should be used instead of radio buttons if each item in a set can be independently controlled. Let's see some inspirations from Bobin. So here we have Airbnb, and you can see we have a toggle here. User can turn it on to see the prices, like all the includes all the fees before taxes, and this is off state. Then we have uh, Patreon. That's the name, I think. But yeah, it's an on state where it is, in other words, enabled. Here we have YouTube Music, and it has a gorgeous toggle button here. Then we have this. This is from Perplexity. Um, and you can see they have added some, their own elements in them in the toggle button. And here we have reader 5, and you can see there is a whole list, and you can see some of these items have toggles. This is off state and this is on or enabled state. And again, in simple YouTube we have whole bunch of toggles. Now we need to create them. Yeah. So here I found the icons that we can get from material icons. Honestly, I've never used them because you can't animate them, and yeah, it gives you much less control than actually having a custom one. So let's create a custom one. I am going to bring myself a frame, and this time our frame is going to be 32 by 32 instead of 24, because that's very small, and you as user has to actually, let's go back here, and user has to actually click on this part, this section, and then in this area, like when it is off. So we need a little bigger. So 32 is the size that I am adding, and to show you guys, I am going to add some color so you can see what's happening. So the height is 32, and for the width you can either double it, 64. If this feels a little too much, you can try 1.5 width, so which will be 48 or maybe 52, like whatever is suits your design, you can go with that. So I'm going to go with 52 and see what happens. I'm going to call it toggle off, and this is the empty frame. Of course, we need it rounded. Let's do that. First figure out what kind of design we want. So what I have in mind is this. Sorry. So I want my toggle to have a smart line, and then over that I want a circle that is moved here or there. So you can see this one is smaller. That's why I added the color. We can remove those corners and keeping this design. We will remove this background later. This is to show you what's going on. So just keep this design in mind. Now I am going to take another frame and place it outside. Sorry, F frame, and place it outside. Now I'm going to drag it within the screen, and I want this height to be, let's say, 8 only, and I'm going to place it in the center. And now I am going to round this one. This is my actual frame, which is telling me what's the limit and the size that I will need to, uh, gather all my elements in. And this is the actual design. So I am going to give this one a fill of 300, let's say, or for now, or maybe keep it white and see what comes later. So this is my I'll say base. Then I need this circle that can go here and there when you touch over it. So that circle, you can create a frame actually. Uh, let's try 16. Give it a color, a darker one, gray color. No, it's too dark. And I'm going to round those corners. And this is my base. Now things are getting start. Like in this particular challenge, I tried to add a little more complexity instead of making these simple ones. So let's see what happens now. So this is my, I'll call it dot. Now I am going to add it in another frame. So you see this is frame one and we have a dot within it, and I am going to apply shift A property on it, and then apply some, you can apply some padding. Let's apply some padding, 8 and then 8 and see what happens. Hmm. Yeah, I don't want auto layout actually. Let's remove that. Sorry about that. Uh, let's try 48 by 48 size because that's the touch area we have in Android. And yeah, I am going to call it handle. Now, you see, let's try to make this bigger. I'm doing some experimentation and see if this fails or not. So I'm going to control X, cut, and place it within this base one. So I have one frame which is toggle off, and this is base, and I am going to select base and paste my created element here and center align it like this. We can't see it. So let's uncheck this clip content, and now I have this handle and I'm going to move it where I want. So you can move it right, till the end, or you can try to have some distance from the side. It looks very ugly, so I want to stack it to the right. So this is my first state, like the default state that is ready. Now I want the other state. I'm going to remove this sketch, and I want this to go on the other side, of course. So I'm just using arrows to move it to the other side here. And I want now it to have some active color. So let's give it, yeah, let's try some other color, make it orange. When this is orange, we probably want the base to be a little bit orange. Or maybe we want a stroke actually. Let's select both of these and apply some stroke and see what we can do with that. Yeah, this looks much better. So I am just applying a stroke and removing this fill. No, let's keep the fill too. White one. Sweet. And now you can see like what happened. We can remove the fill from this outer at the end now. But I don't, I have another plan. That's why I want to keep it. So just bear with me. Now we have both components ready, which has like one of the state is the starting one and one of the state is the end one. I'm just going to stack them right there. Select both of these and create a component. This we have a toggle switch, or maybe you can call it just toggle. And this property is state. And now I'm going to bring this one out, place it in a frame, give it a fill, and I'm going to play it. Yep. Let's zoom it, fill screen. We did not apply any property. Let's apply that. I'm going to prototype mode and select this handle. So this is the thing that will be clicked. And now if I click on it, make sure you see this other handle outline. We don't want to connect it with that. We want to connect it with the state. If you are not sure what's happening, you can select this layer and see, to which it was connected with. So it is connected with this state, which is turned on, and when you click on it, it just switches. Okay, sweet. Let's see what happens now. Perfect. Let's start again. No, I forgot to give this a layer, a selection, fill screen, simple. But you see, nothing else is happening. If I hover over it, if I press it, nothing happens. So let's now apply some interactions. I'm gonna keep my test frame right here. So we can go back and see whatever happens. Let's make this big. Now, let's see what happens. So you see, this is the default state, this is the end state, which is awesome. Now we need a state where when this is um, hovered on, what happens? So I'm going to make a copy and call it hover. Then you can also go into detail and say what happens when it is pressed, because pressed is something that is handled in the mobile design, but hover is something that can be handled in the web design. We have talked much about it, so we won't be going in that detail on how you can make a, another breakpoint variant for this component. So we won't go in those details for this one. So I made these copies. So what should we do? What I want is that when I hover over it, this becomes small. But when I like in this state, while hovering, I'm gonna press on it and this becomes big again. So let's figure this out. So I let's try this. So I'm going to select this dot layer of mine here, all of these, and I'm going to duplicate it. And the frame that is below, you see here, you can see now two dots layers. So I selected all of them and I am going to rename them. And let's call them interaction because they will be the one interacting. And now for hover, I came here in the hover one and I am going to select this interaction state. Let's also change the color for the interaction layer. So anything that is gray, I'm going to make it just slightly lighter. And anything that is dark, I also want to make it slightly lighter. Let's go back here, select the interaction layer, and I am going to make it a little, you know what? I am going to make my dot layer smaller instead. So let's make it 4 point small. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Yeah, like this. We are in need where we need to remove this square. So let's add a background color of this color and remove this fill so we can see how this is going to actually look like. Sorry, light color. Now, perfect. Now what happens? So let's see what's happening actually. I forgot what I was doing. So when you hover over it, instead of, yeah, I'm gonna remove this click state, bring this one, remove here. And when we are hovering over it, it should interact like this. So let's see what's happening. Let's start the animation and nothing happens. Reset. Yeah, yeah, we can see it. So if I hover over it, the hover interaction is working. So what now I want is if I press over it, it needs to become bigger again. So let's go in that detail. So again, I am going to select the layer which is called dot, which is again 20. That's why I made the copies. So here the default state is 20. In hover state, I made it smaller. Let's make it more small. 2, 1, 2, like this. So it is more noticeable. We can also try to make our interaction layer color more lighter. Yeah, now it is more noticeable. So we can see when we hover, it becomes this. Now if this, so when I press on this state, I want my interaction to be little bigger. So let's do that. So since the outside layer it has clip content applied to it, that's why it's behaving this way. So let's see what happens. Now for this particular layer, remove the click state here. I want it to while pressing, I want it to become this. Hmm. Again, we need to change the color of this screen. So much back and forth here. So this is the default state. This is what happens when I hover over it. And this is what happens when I press over it. Okay, this is working. So now I want all those properties to be applied here. You see, in this state. So I'm gonna make 3 copies, and what I want is I want my, so this is the final state. This is going to be the pressed one, and this is going to be, no, this is hover and this is pressed. So the press state will have, I'm gonna see what size I made this. So 16, sorry, 14. So I'm gonna just make it smaller, 14. Align it in center like this. Maybe we want this color to be more lighter, so it is more noticeable. Then we want interaction one to be bigger. 1, 2, 1, 2. Now, how do we prototype this? We first need to rename them properly, of course. So I am going to see what we can do here. I am going to add selected state here, selected, and by default it is no. So all these three will be no, and these three will be yes. Means, or maybe turned on and off, whatever word you want to give it. By for now, I think selected makes sense. Now these two states, the first one and the last one, are the default states. These two are hovered ones. So I'm going to select and rename them. And these two are pressed ones. I should have organized this other way, but yeah, whatever works. So now when user has clicked on this state, he will, arrive here, and you can animate it back too. So let's do this. So we want it to be connected here, but when user wants to go back, he hovers over this. Oh, wrong selection. Yeah, you have to make sure you are connecting it to the main frame, not the square one named handle. So you need to make sure connect with the outside frame. That's why otherwise the anchor one will show up, anchor interaction will show up. We don't want that. And so on hover, this becomes this. And by default, I'm always using the smart animate ease in and 300 size for this particular challenge. And this, when it is pressed upon, again, wrong interaction, wrong frame I have selected, sorry, connected it to. While pressing, it needs to become this. And then eventually when we let it go, we press it, we come to this state. Yep, the loop has been completed. So let's see. This is the default state. I hover over it, and this animation happens. Then I press, it becomes bigger again, and then I click on it. Okay, I forgot to apply the click property. This needs to be clicked. Why you're not clicking? Oh, wrong connection. Wow, this became complex for a different reason. Sweet. Now you click on it and we move here. If you go otherwise, this happens and you click and it goes back. So this is one way you can make your toggle component interactive. There are a lot of other animations, so I can show you the one I was experimenting with. So toggle. I'm going to apply here this one, and let's see how this acts. Let's start. So this one is one that I previously made. You see, again, I am going to hover over it. It becomes just a layer, just becomes bigger from the behind. The dot itself stays in the same size. And then there is this liquid animation that happens. So we can try that too. So I'm just going to bring these two components here to make it less confusing. And I'm going to detach my instance. Again, these two are, we have already made it. And what we have to do, let's rename them. So this is this name, toggle names to be called this, and this becomes on. Sweet. We need to bring our fill back so you can see what's happening here. So now if we want to animate that liquid effect, we need to make a copy of this one, and we need the copy of this one. Let me place them 24 with, sorry, distance. Now what I am going to do is I'm first going to remove the interaction layer to avoid the confusion. We only have dot for now. And here in the second state, our dot is just becomes a little bigger. So we can make it 24, 28, whatever makes sense for the size that you have chosen. And this is 28. Now I am going to create a component out of it. Of course, it is going to cause some trouble. Again, add another property selected. And by default, the selected will be no. These two are no, and these two need to be yes. And then this is the default state, and this is the final state. So let's call it default, and these two are the ones that are like, let's call them actually, for this with to avoid the confusion, I'm just calling them 0, 1. So this is the first state. This is 0, 2. This is what happens on number 3, and this is 0, 4. Okay. So these are stages 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what we need to do is click this layer. So what I was telling you guys about, but when you prototype, if you are connecting this handle layer, but you need to not connect it to the next handle layer, but to actual this rectangle one, the actual out, the one which has all these elements. So let's do this. So if I click on this automatically becomes the state 2. But now I'm going to select this state, this full frame, and this automatically after some delay becomes the next state. So how much delay we want? We instantly, like, we don't want it to wait for quite a few seconds and do something. So we can try 5 milliseconds, very small time. Like, I won't go to math. I didn't revise that concept. Just 5 milliseconds. You can also try 10 milliseconds. It is like how much time delay you want within this animation. So let's try it with 5 millimeter, 5 millisecond. Damn. Yeah. Now again another interaction on delay. This also comes after 5 milliseconds. Very small amount of time. And here I am just applying the standard properties. For now, for this challenge, we are good with that. And yep, it automatically becomes this. Now I am going to make this screen bigger and add my third one here. We need to get rid of the frame that we added, frame color. Sweet. This is the third one. So let's test what happens. Let it refresh. Now, if I click on it, it takes its time and does this cute liquid animation. And yep, we can try it with more delay by making these two, both of these two, 10 millisecond. And let's see what happens. Actually, I think both of them look good. So I did experiment it with a lot of other options. So bouncy selection instead of ease in was cute, but none of them looked practical. So ease in, ease out, or this one, ease in and ease out. All three of them are reasonable and natural. You can try with these and experiment and see how funny stuff you get. Now we have our component ready. If you see that this is a little too big, you can go and make this small, like 8. I'm not gonna touch that, honestly. Let's keep it like this. I do see that it should be only 40 in width, but yeah, for now we are good. So if we have a screen like this where we want the sound effects to be turned on, so we will add this. Definitely the color is not working, so let's go back to ch- uh, change the color. So what is this color actually? Or dot color. I'm gonna select all the dot layers and make them dark. And then the interaction ones, we are gonna make them darker. Yeah, we are good. Now I'm going to replace all these emojis with the right component. Some of them we can just select and to be turned on like this. Yeah, we can also these same cards that we made in the last class, we can choose these emojis to replace these. We need to make it fill container. And this is trickier now. We probably want to align these. Maybe I want to. Oh, this one has an extra layer. That's why it's acting like this. Let's ungroup this. Let's add some spacing. 24. We might for this particular one. So in previous challenge in radio buttons, we tried to align it with the heading. And I think that is not working because the item is placed here and it doesn't have a direct reference to the heading and and this text. So let's try. Hmm. I think center line works better for this design when we are placing our interactive element to the other side. We should, yep. And just because we haven't touched this subject before, so if you want to change the color, so you see I designed in the purplish and bluish stuff. So I'm just gonna bring that color to match the designs. So here, my orange color, the darkest one. I'm gonna do this, the dark one. So let's actually do something interesting. What happens if I make the, interaction, the 300 color? Haha, it looks weird. Let's not do this. Where were we? So let's try a lighter blue instead. Another, this orange color we can apply this outline. Awesome. Now it is matching the vibes of our design. And we have a component that can be made, no, sorry, that we just made in a few minutes. See you guys in some other video.